right, up today, Pioneer RT 1020L reel-to-reel. These were manufactured between 1973 and 1977. 3-motor, belt drive. I would say this is kind of a medium-sized reel-to-reel. Maybe slightly favoring a larger reel-to-reel, but it's not gigantic, right? This particular one, I didn't even look at the serial number. If I think about it, I'll snap a pic of the serial number and let you know what year this was actually produced, if I can determine that. I pulled down two product catalogs, one from 1973 and one from 1977. It looks to me that in 1973, the 1020, now I saw 1020, I saw 1020L. I'm assuming the 1020 was an early version and it was closer to 73. There's probably some difference between the 1020 and the 1020L. If I determine that, I will flash it up on the screen. But in 1973, the top of the line reel-to-reel, as far as I could determine, was the RT 1020. At that time, they also had the RT71 and then a quad. I think it was a QT71 or QT. I have QT74 here, but I think it was a QT70. No, I think it was QT74. Yeah, so I think that's correct. Whatever image I flash up will be the correct tape deck. And then I looked at 1977. Now in 1977, the top of the line, from what I could tell, was the the RT 2022 or 44. My assumption is the 44 would be a quad. And then you also had the 1050, 1020, 1011. There may have been another one in there. I don't think the 707 or 701 was sold until 1978, but it wouldn't surprise me if there is some information indicating that 77 was when the 701 or the 707 was manufactured and sold as well. So I like these. I've only worked on one other Pioneer tape deck, and reel-to-reel, I should say, and that was a couple of years ago. And I don't even know what the model number was. I know that it was a 10-inch. So it was probably, I know it wasn't the big one, so it was either a 1011, the 1020, maybe a 1050, one of those three. I find these to be very, in my notes I put TIAC-ish, right? So it reminds me of a TIAC. Like a 3300, 6300, well, not maybe a 6300, but it reminds me of a TIAC, right? It's just very TIAC-ish. I like the styling. I like these older, boxier, slightly larger reel-to-reels, even though I have one and it's a Sony. I think it's larger than this. And, the ones that I run in a Kai GX77 and a Pioneer RT707 just because of space limitations. But I do like the look of these older tape decks, the larger tape decks. Hooking these up is pretty easy. Operation is pretty easy as well. So this just has front and rear. It has front and rear. So I don't think this is, I don't know if this is quad or 4-track. It would kind of make sense for it to be a quad. I'll have to flash up. I didn't even think about that until right now, but now thinking about the outputs, you have front and rear outputs. So you have front left and right and rear left and right. This might be a quad. I don't know. I don't see any quad stuff in the front, but anyway. So as I was saying, so hookups are easy, operation is easy. So kind of starting at the top, you've got a counter, right? That's just a counter. You have a pause on and off. Now this is not running because this reel is pinched, so you get that, right? You get a little bit of noise. You hear that shh, right? So the tape is kind of rubbing down here at the bottom. Otherwise, I would have this running so you can watch the meters bounce. But so pause, off and on, power on and off, reel size, speed. You have 2 recording indicator lights. Function buttons, so you have record, rewind, stop, play, forward. Mic knob, line knob, the meters. Record left and right, play 4-channel or 2-channel. Now again, you had quadraphonic sound, you had 4-channel sound. And there was a difference between the two. If I can flash that up here, I know quadraphonic sound is different than 4-channel. I don't really know how it's different. I'm sure I'm going to get blasted in the comments. I'll flash something up with explaining the difference between the two. But this does have a 4-channel and 2-channel switch. You have meters front and rear. You also have monitor, tape and source for left and right. 2 bias controls for recording. And then you have output. Right, so pretty simple, as far as the operation goes. I found this to be pretty easy to work on, which was surprising. So there is a service video on this, and I've lost track on if it came out before or after. Yeah, I don't know. Basically, this came in, the heads were damaged, not to give too much away from the service video. The heads were damaged, the belts needed to be replaced, a little bit of service to the counter. I was surprised. This was really, really easy to work on. I'll kind of leave some of that to the service video, though. I don't want to go into too much detail on that in case you would want to check that out. But I was surprised at how easy this was to work on. Everything was really easy to get to. Everything was easy to replace. It was very thoughtfully laid out in terms of service. So as far as service goes, one of the easier ones that I've worked on. It was pretty. I got it sorted out pretty quickly. If you're looking to pick one of these up, so what are some things that you should pay attention to? Again, I'm not a big tape guy. I don't do a lot of. I don't rebuild reel-to-reels or cassette decks. I kind of begrudgingly will work on them. I have to be in the mood to work on them. This one actually sat for a while because of the damage to the heads. So it took me 6 months to find heads for it. So kind of segueing into, or kind of coming back to what I was talking about. If you're looking to get one of these, right, what are some things that you should look out for? So number one, I don't know how many of these were made, but I know looking for the head assembly, it took me 6 months. Now, shortly after I started looking for the head block, right, the head assembly, one popped up on eBay, but they wanted like $400 for it. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay $400 for that. So I kind of waited them out as they dropped the price. Finally got down to about, I think it was $150 plus, all the fees and taxes for eBay. So I ended up paying out of pocket $180, which I thought was a pretty good price, for the head block. That was the only head block that was out there though. And I didn't see a lot of parts listed for these units. So I don't know about parts availability. I would say you can find parts, but I think it's going to take you a little bit to get them. So if you're looking for one of these, number one, I would make sure that it's complete. Cosmetic condition and cosmetic completeness. Right? Can you find, right? Can you find this arm if it's missing, right? Can you find a new pinch roller assembly if that's broken? So I would definitely make sure that everything is complete. I would also make sure that the hubs are here. I'm sure that if someone sells these Pioneer badged hubs or adapters, right, for the 10-inch reels, I'm sure they would want a fortune for them. So I would definitely make sure that that the real hubs are there as well, because that would cost you some money. For any reel-to-reel, I would say an image showing the VU meters lit up at a minimum and working ideally, because if one of these meters is broken, are you going to be able to easily replace it? Knobs, I don't know of any other tape deck or receiver or anything like that that uses these knobs. So these are probably all unique to this tape deck. You might be able to find some interchangeable parts with like a 1011 or a 1050, so that could potentially increase the pool of available parts out there, but I don't know that to be a fact. For any reel-to-reel, an image of the tape heads. As I mentioned earlier, the tape heads on this were damaged, and in the service video I show you the extent of the damaged heads, or the damage to them. So this is all about completeness, confirming as much of the operability as you can, make sure that it's working, making sure that like the tape counter works, even though, you know, that belt was pretty easy to replace as well. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to it for a second, but this was really easy to get sorted out. It was one of the easier ones that I've had to work on, other than the fact that I had to wait for the parts, which was kind of a bummer. Now these aren't, how do I want to phrase this? These aren't the most valuable reel-to-reels, but I was surprised at what these can command in terms of their price. So as far as pricing these go. Now there's one that's out there, this morning that somebody, a seller wants $1,800 for. And, when I snapped that photo, I thought, $1,800, that's insane. Well, then I go to the sold listings, and one of these, so the one that was advertised was like completely serviced, and I think it's a company that kind of specializes, I would guess, in servicing reel-to-reels and selling them on eBay. And I thought $1,800 was a bit much, but I think that one had the manuals and the box and all that stuff. Well, then I go to sold listings, and there were a couple that sold for more than $1,000. One was like $1,300 or $1,400. So me going into this, I'm thinking these aren't going to be all that valuable because I'm kind of thinking TIAC, right, along those lines. But I would say to pick one of these up that has been recapped, completely serviced, good heads, calibrated, has everything here, everything is flawlessly working, museum piece, easily over $1,000. And I was kind of shocked at that. I had no idea. I thought that this would cap out at about $800, and that was without doing any research at all, but I was wrong. I mean, these go for more than I thought. I mean, now when you're looking at reel-to-reels, like if you compare this to an Akai GX747, that might go for $2,000, right? Or an RT909 or something like that from Pioneer. I mean, naturally, those are different creatures, right? But those are, several $1,000, a couple $1,000 tape decks. So I was surprised. So restored, museum piece, calibrated, all the stuff, $1,000 or more. One in working condition. I saw a little bit of a spread out there. So, but again, there weren't many sales to go by. So I'm also kind of just, throwing some of this, seeing what sticks right to the wall. I would say somewhere in that $750, $800, $850 price range. So what would I price this at, or what will this go out on the floor at 402 vinyl at? This will be probably priced at, because it's working, it has been serviced, right? Hasn't been calibrated, but I did check the speed because I do have one kind of homemade calibration reel, if you want to call it that. So this was spot on in terms of speed. I would say $800. So more than 1,000 restored, 800-ish in good cosmetic, in good working condition. This is not perfect. It's got a little bit of wear on the wooden panels. This was caked in nicotine. Luckily, my basement is dark and you can't really see it, but this thing was disgusting. It took me an hour to try to get some of the nicotine off, and it just keeps coming off. So this was definitely loved by someone who also loved cigarettes, right? And then, to pick one of these up for parts or to repair yourself, the least expensive one I found was a little over $400. Now that's eBay price. If in Omaha, Nebraska, one of these walks in the door, we're not going to pay a whole lot for it because if you have to sort out a reel to reel, it can be expensive. Even though this one was easy to do the basic routine kind of service maintenance on it, like a belt change. You know, if something is goofy in here with the relay, or if you have to recap a board or something like that, you know, that changes the nature, and that can become a really expensive repair. The other thing that I forgot to mention was all of these controls are easy to get to. Sometimes these controls are difficult to get to, either through the top or through the bottom. I didn't really have to do any spray and pray. I mean, I could hit all of those controls. They were very easy to clean up. But going back to picking up an RT 1020L for parts or to repair, I would try to hold out for right around that 300, 350 range, right? But again, that would be one that's in, when I look for parts units or repair units on eBay, I try to get them as cosmetically close to perfect as I can. And then I have made so many mistakes. I'm very, very judicious about looking at all of the little details and reading descriptions and asking questions of the seller. So, well, on one of these, right, I would, number one, do the meters work? Can you test the meters? If not, again, you might be waiting for parts for a year or 6 months or something like that. But anyway, yeah, so this is one of those 1,700-ish, 300-ish, 400-ish, right? Tape decks. Again, it was really easy to work on. I was surprised that it was as easy as it was to work on. This one has seen a lot of wear, though. There's wear on the capstan shaft, and you can still see some remnants of some nicotine and gunk on some of the parts, but you know, that's just that's the nature of the beast. You know, when it comes to this stuff from the 70s, people smoked a lot, and their gear you know, collected a lot of that stuff on it. So anyway, now I'm just rambling. Pioneer RT 1020L, really good tape deck. I was excited when this came in because number one, we were looking for a 10-inch reel-to-reel, and I had not worked on a Pioneer, so I definitely appreciated the opportunity to do so. So as always, if you like what you see, like, hit, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.